May I speak in the name of God, our life-giver, pain giver, and love. Amen. So I wonder, which is your favourite apostle? Is it gentle and thoughtful John, the one whom we're told Jesus loved? Or is it one of the fishermen, James or Andrew? Or is it Mary Magdalene, who doesn't get apostle status, but is surely one of the most important of Jesus' followers? Or is it poor Jude, who's always remembered the lost causes, apparently because his name was like Judas's, and so people always prayed to him at the end when they'd given up on the other apostles? Well, for many people, I think Thomas takes the prize as the favourite apostle. Oh, thank goodness for Thomas, they say, breathing a sigh of relief. He had the courage to doubt. In St. John's Gospel, he's recorded as speaking 3 times, or reported as speaking 3 times. After Lazarus dies, and Jesus sets off to the dangerous region of Judea to see Lazarus' sisters, Thomas says, "Let us go with him, that we too may die there." And then later in the passage often used at funerals, where Jesus says, "You know where I am going." Thomas replies, "We don't know where you're going, and how can we know the way?" To which Jesus replies, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." So Thomas is established as someone who is both committed and also questioning. And then we have the final crucial account of Jesus' appearance to the disciples after the resurrection. He's already appeared to Mary in the garden, and on the same day, he appeared also in a locked room to the disciples, who all rejoiced when they saw the Lord. But Thomas wasn't there, and he refuses to believe even a week later when he's back from wherever he'd been. "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands, and put my finger in the mark of the nails, and my hand in his side, I will not believe." I very often have a conversation with people along these lines. "Giles, I really don't know what I believe. I'm not even sure if I believe in God." Whoever it is speaking to me sometimes looks a bit shamefaced, as though they failed in some way. It just doesn't make sense. "Join the club," I say. "I'm not sure what I believe either. I never have been. Isn't that the point?" "But aren't we supposed to be secure and confident in our faith and go and tell it on the mountain?" "Yes," I say, "we're certainly supposed to be confident in how we live. But belief is not a checklist of propositions that you have to be able to tick. I think it's something very different to that. And it seems to me that many people have got the notion of religious faith very wrong." So here, at this crucial moment in the narrative, we have Thomas, deeply skeptical and refusing to be convinced until he says, "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands and put my finger in the mark of the nails and my hand in his side, I will not believe." He wants absolute and incontrovertible proof that Jesus is alive. But for me, one of the most interesting things about this story is what happens once Jesus invites Thomas to see his hands and touch the wound in his side. Instead of responding to the invitation, Thomas looks at him and says to him, "My Lord and my God." That's it. Job done. And Jesus acknowledges him, and also us. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet come to believe. So what exactly is going on here? What's going through Thomas's mind when he is presented by what seems, by any criteria, to be a genuinely resurrected and genuinely wounded Jesus? I think there is a moment of decision. I think Thomas is deciding to take a risk. I think, to use a phrase often associated with the thinker Søren Kierkegaard, he is taking a leap of faith. He's being presented with something which is manifestly illogical and irrational. Dead people do not come back to life and invite you to put your hand in their wounds. They simply don't. And yet here is someone who is apparent and physical and speaking. Thomas has, in the end, to accept the evidence of his own He needs no more proof, for no amount of argument will carry him over the line. He doesn't need to touch the wound. He has to take the leap. And in that moment of decision, he gives everything, my Lord and my God. It feels to me a bit like falling in love. That moment when someone realizes that they have fallen in love and there's nothing they can do about it. They have to take a leap of faith, as perhaps Prince Philip and the Queen did, or Princess Elizabeth, all those years ago. That was just before she came here to rededicate the building. It feels as if Thomas in this account is saying, okay, I can't make sense of this, but whatever has happened, I'm going to go with it and see where it takes me. I'm going to stop worrying about logic and rationality and start living, my Lord and my God. And then, according to tradition, he goes off to India and founds the church there, which means that the Indian church is older and better established than the church in Europe, which is not something we often hear about, is it? So my response when people say to me, Jesus, when people say to me, Giles, so my response when people say to me, Giles, I'm not sure what I believe, it's really along the lines of Thomas's response. Isn't that the point? What's the opposite of faith? It's not doubt, it's certainty. Faith requires a leap in the dark. Otherwise, it wouldn't be faith. I don't need faith that this floor will hold me up. I know it will. But I do need faith that love will conquer. Faith is a risk. Faith is an affirmation of things not seen. As the letter to the Hebrews says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the assurance of things not seen. And according to the second letter to the Corinthians, we walk by faith and not by sight. Faith is a way of life. It's not a multiple choice questionnaire. It's a risk. It's about taking a first step, as Thomas did, not knowing where you might end up. Faith is about trust. It's about not knowing. But above all, it's about love. And that's why it's directly comparable to the risk of entering a relationship or forming a friendship. If we want to stay safe, we avoid human relationships. With relationships comes the possibility of pain or loss. But if we want to live, we commit, knowing that in the commitment, there will be pain, there will be loss, but there will also be joy and laughter, and above all, transformation. The story of Holy Week that we shared together the week before last is a love story. It's the story of the love has for us. Jesus, the one who died for love of our love. And it's the story of the love we can, if we dare, have for the God who is love. But it's also a love story about the disciples, the apostles, Peter, Mary, James, John, Martha, Thomas. That gang of people who stuck together in all adversity. Which is why this reading about Thomas is set alongside the reading from the book of Acts, which is a lovely, albeit idealized, picture of the early church. The whole group of those who believed were of one heart and soul, and no one claimed private ownership of any possessions, but everything they owned was held in common. Well, that rather puts the reignite appeal into perspective, doesn't it? Perhaps if you could just let me have everything that you own, and I'll make sure it's properly distributed, then that would work for the good of all, yes, no? But surely one major point about Thomas's decision is that he didn't do it on his own. He was surrounded by and in the company of the other disciples. So this is also a love story between them, because they're taking a risk not just in trusting the God who is love, but also in trusting one another. You're taking a risk by coming to St. John's. God knows there are enough stories of churches and church leaders who have harmed members of their congregations. In a very real sense, you've taken a leap of faith by joining this community. And my fervent prayer is that that leap that you took will prove to have been the best decision you could possibly have taken. Because faith is not about one person struggling on their own. It's about all of us in community trying to be our best selves, trying with the help of the resurrected Jesus to bring in the reign of God, to create a world of justice, generosity, inclusion, and love. A resurrected world lit by the light of faith. A reignited world, if you will. So finally, let's remember that it's not all one way. It's not only us who take a risk when we leap into faith. It's love who takes a chance on us. It's God who takes a chance on us. Love, the ground base, who gives love self for love of our love, knowing that we will fail and fail again, but loving us anyway, for which I give deep thanks. Amen.
Amen.